Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Who is there? Shegun Fatumo, how are you? Welcome. Nice to see you today. Adeleke Adeni, nice to see you. Welcome. Is your church a cult? That's what we are going to be talking about this week. How do you know if your church is a cult or not? How do you know if your church is a cult or not? I hope your church is not a cult, but who knows? So that's what we are going to be talking about. How do you know if your church is a cult or not? Is your church a cult? So please invite your friends and let's invite as many people as possible. Let's invite them publicly. This is going to be a new session, a new series. I finished the series on tithe and offering. I think that was a revolutionary one. But this is even going to be much more revolutionary. Is your church a cult? Is your church a cult or not? So welcome, family. Welcome to all of you. Adeleke Adeniyi, Bidemi, Rochelle White, Mofelola, Benny Gift, Patty, Esther, Anastasia, Brenda Williams, Shioma, Tunde Disu, Dennis, Adeola Disu, Omonike, Jane Musanka, Ezinwa, Brenda, Paul is here. We just had a session with Paul Eshu for Mosefe is here. Yetunde Omoile, Roslyn Amaka, Dejo Nobu, Adaora IJ, Doris Ngere, Shijuade. Welcome. Now, okay, let's start our class today. Is your church a cult? That is $1 million question right there. Is your church a cult? Have you ever thought of that? Have you ever thought about it? Is your church a cult or not? I'm sure so many people will be afraid of even coming to listen to this message because they are afraid of facing the truth or facing the fact. I'm sure many people will be afraid of even facing it or even getting to know the truth. The truth might be, sometimes the truth is expensive, but sometimes the truth is scary. And I'm sure to a lot of people, the truth about this should be very, very scary. So how do you know if the church that you have come to call your church, if the church that you are attending is actually a cult? And my teaching is not going to make it better. Let me just tell you up front. Because in the real sense, the truth is that most of those places that we call church, especially in Africa, most of those churches, in Pentecostal churches especially, those organizations that we call church, a long time ago, they have become a cult. They have become cults, and they have become totalitarian, destructive organizations. That's what you could call all of us here in Ukraine. Cult that is totalitarian and destructive. To a large extent, a lot of churches are like this. So let's find out about your particular church. Is your church a cult or not? How do you know? How do you find this out? And it's going to be a series. I'm going to do this in series, and I'm going to make sure that I do this over a period of at least a week, just for you to be able to get all your answers. So, by the way, if you missed the kingdom fruits that we did, We just finished Kingdom Fruits 2 hours ago. If you missed that, please go back and listen to it. We had a very nice time with King Paul, and it's wonderful. So how do you know if your church is a cult or not? Like I said, a lot of churches that we call churches these days, a lot of them are just destructive organizations, or cult. They are destructive organizations. So I want to give you today the signs of a destructive cult. The sign of a destructive cult, a destructive organization. And so the fact that somebody say they are a church doesn't mean that they're a church. You don't need to believe them for what they say. You need to check them out. The fact that somebody comes and says that, oh, we are the church of the Lord Jesus Christ of the latter days or the last days or whatever, that doesn't mean anything. Somebody could come and say that, oh yes, I'm the church of the first Jesus Christ, Adam and Eve. It doesn't mean anything. Let's check out how these people are doing, how much these organizations are a church. Are they really a church or destructive cults? Are they really a church or they are destructive cults? So how do you recognize and how do you separate them? How do you separate a cult from a church? Now, the first sign, I'm going to give, like I said, I'm going to give you signs. The first sign of a cult, that you are going to a cult and not a church, is if the church sees members as their property. If the church that you go to views you and the members of the church as her own property or as their own property, that is, they view you as if they own you. If your church relates to you as if you belong to them, as if they own you, as if you are their property, then that's a problem. Do you even know that in our church here in Ukraine, do you know that we don't have membership? Just so that we know, we will not even give any, what do you call it, any suspicion to anybody. At the church that I pastor, we never had membership. We never have that. We have names of people, everybody, you are a member, or write this out, then you become a member. We tried to do it one time, then God cautioned me, no. Jesus, did the Acts of the Apostles, the church in the Acts of the Apostles, did they have membership? So to be looking at somebody, to be looking at people that God has brought or that Jesus died for and shed his blood for, as be looking at them as your own property, to be, privatizing individuals is absolutely against the Spirit of Christ. Because, by the way, only God knows who is born again and who is not born again. Only God knows who is truly is. That's what the Bible says. Even the apostles didn't try it. Even the apostles didn't have membership. They said God knows those that are his. God knows those who are his. So I'm not going to really knock membership so strong here. Some people are doing membership for the sake of organization or for the sake of organizational things, or they are doing membership for the sake of government or for the sake of registration or something. I don't know, but I will not be too strong on membership. But what I mean, what I'm really talking about, that the real indication of a cult is when the church or the leadership of the church is seeing and viewing the members of the church as the property of that church. Then you are not in a church, my dear. You are in a cult. And I'm going to show you and give you the evidences and the signs and what makes you to know, to really see it. I'm going to give you signs and evidences, some facts that will immediately let you know that yes, this is what Pastor has just spoken about. Whenever an organization begin to view their members or people who go to that church as that you are our own, you belong to us, and they begin to treat you as such. So they begin to, just because, it is wrong, because for you to be a church member, or for you to even be attending any church, nobody did anything for that. They only invited you. It is your free will to become a church member, and to coming to any church is the free will of the individual. So to go to a church is your own free will. Why should anybody violate that free will? And one of the ways that your free will be violated is when people begin to look at you just because you have come to that church, just because you are now a member or a parishioner or a congregant or a visitor or somebody who comes to that church, just because you are a member of that church. That does not give the authority or the leadership of that country, of that church, to claim ownership over you. God does not allow and does not give room for any organization or any group of individuals to claim ownership over God's sons and daughters and God's creation. So for you to join any church or any religious organization, it means that you yourself took that decision. So you probably took the decision to join that church or to begin to go to that church. But what you did not do, and what churches do, or not churches, but so-called churches, but really cults do, is that once you indicate your desire and your willingness to join the church, that you want to be coming to this church now, to a large extent, a lot of organizations that are really cult and have started in their nature, in their operations, and have stopped being churches but have become a cult. What they do is that they say, oh, you have joined our church, you are now a church member. Okay, that means that now they sit on your head. They begin to treat you as if you now own them something. So they have as if they are taking over your will. They are taking over your life, your willpower. So much that as if you now belong to them. They are forgetting that you walked into that church with your own 2 feet. You came into that church freely by yourself. Nobody bought you in the market. You are not on sale. It is, the people that belong to, it is in the days of slave trade that the slave owners used to go to the market to buy and pay. They pay money, and they pay money to buy the slave from the slave market. So then they have full authority and full lordship and full ownership over those slaves because they paid for them in the market. You know what I will tell you? Slave trade, that is so terrible and horrible. As horrible as slave trade is, sometimes it's even better than what is obtainable in some churches, in some so-called churches. And these churches, these so-called churches, that's why I say they are no more a church. They are a cult. One of the ways, it doesn't matter what they call themselves. They could call themselves anything they want. But if they treat you, if your church is treating you as their members, if the church is treating the membership of the church or people who go to that church, if they are treating you as if you belong to them, as if they own you, because you now go to that church, they are treating you as if they own you. Because you now go to that church, they now treat you as if you belong to them, as if you are their own property. That is no more a church. That is now a cult. Because even in the case of slave trade, like I just said, you go to the market to buy. You buy individuals. It's evil. It's horrible. You buy people. That is horrible, right? But what happens in the church is that you don't even buy. Nobody gave money. Come, let me show you. Come here. You don't need to talk. Just stand. Pastor, talk. I didn't know that. So let's say this girl now, this lady, Maria is her name. Let's say Maria is a member of our church, and she is. But like I said, that's why I said we don't even have membership, like number and name. We don't have membership. We never had membership in the Embassy of God. We don't have membership. So we don't carry people and tell them they have to be, responsible members, or they have to be as members and, putting their names and checking out on them. They are, taking a journal on them and things like that. The Bible says it is to freedom that we are called. We are not called to bondage. So let's say during the slave trade time, in the slave trade time, at least I go to the market and give out money, my money, to buy an individual, a person. But today, she came to the church to join our church by herself, out of her own free will. Now that she had come out of her free will to join our church, some churches who they are actually called, they begin to get a name, credit card information, and then begin to control her. You have to go to church. Why didn't you come last Sunday? What's your problem? What's your problem if I came last Sunday, I didn't come last Sunday? What is your problem? You tell me. What is your problem? If you want to find out why I didn't come last Sunday as a sign of care and love, then you must ask as a question, as a question of interest, and as a question of caring and loving. But if you are saying, well, you didn't come to church, why didn't you come to church? To make me feel intimidated? To make me feel guilty? To make me feel bad? And to be making me feel, oh, okay, I will not do that again, man. I will not do that again. I will not do that again. I will make sure I never miss a Sunday. Oh, no, sorry. I'm sorry I missed Sunday. Why should you be sorry that you missed? Why should I even be giving you any report in the first place? Why I missed the Sunday or why I didn't miss the Sunday? If we are friends and I trust you and I just want to share with you out of free will, I can. But I don't have to give anybody report of why I was not in Sunday last week. What's your problem? If you are going to a church like that, that is the way churches are treating, so-called churches are treating members as slaves, as if they own them, as if that's what I call church ownership syndrome. So the church ownership syndrome, somebody said, Darlene Madu said, my mouth wide open. Huh? Thank you. And she said her mouth is wide open. Huh? If anybody is, saying that, why are you in church? Why were you not in church last Sunday? And then they are putting all kind of pressure on you, moral pressure, intimidation, fear, and making you to regret why you didn't go to church. You owe nobody any explanation or apology why you come to church last Sunday or why you didn't come to church last Sunday. You can only do that just because you are friends or because you trust the person. If you want, out of your own free will, you don't need to give anybody any report. You are not a high school student, and your church is not your pastor or your teacher or your leader. There is not your headmaster. You don't. So that's why I'm saying that these things that churches are doing these days and trying to control people and trying to ask them questions, that ownership syndrome is worse than slave trade. In what sense? It's worse than slave trade in the sense that in the slave trade time, the slave owner actually paid for the slave. But today, it is you. They are depriving you of your... So because he paid for that slave, he controls the will of that slave because he paid for his slave. He paid for his head, so he can control his will. He has power over his head. He has authority over his head. So he's controlling his will because he bought his will with money. He bought his will with money. But today, when I come to the church, nobody bought my will. Nobody buys me. Nobody paid for me. I didn't trade my will to anybody. And that is why it is called slave trade. Because no human being must trade their will for anything. No human being must give up their will on the name under any pretense. Doesn't matter under what pretense it is or what argument it is. So it is not you. When you invited me to your church, you never bargained with me, and you never told me that I was going to lose my will. You never told me that I was going to give up my willpower. If you had said that, you should have invited me to the church. You should have invited me to the slave trade, to the slave market. You should have said that you are inviting me to slave bondage. You should have told me that you are not inviting me to a church, but you are inviting me to bondage. So whenever you go see a church where they are always controlling the lifestyle or the daily life or private life of individual who come there, and they are treating you as if they own your life, as if you belong to them, just because you are attending their church. The fact that I am attending your church, it is me. You are supposed to be thanking me. I am adding to you. I am the one adding to you. I am the one blessing you. If I'm coming to your church as a church member, I am bringing my money with me. You didn't buy me in the market. So I'm bringing, because what makes it where I cannot get to that. I keep on shifting up. I wanted to get to the fact that what makes this worse than slave trade. During the days of slave trade, the slave master pays. But today, you didn't pay for me, but you still want to control my will, like the slave master controlled the will of the one he paid for. Number one. Number two, you didn't pay for me. You didn't give money for my head. Now I'm not free. I've lost my will, like the slave that whose head was paid for. Secondly, instead of you to let me be and to just come to church whenever I want and how I see fit, you are controlling my will. You have seized my will. I am as good as a slave. Besides that, I'm supposed to be going somewhere to work, and then after I finish working, I have to bring to you tithe, offering, prophet offering, free will offering, faith offering, birthday gift, birthday offering, New Year gift, Easter gift, birthday gift. You own me your life, pastor. You own me your life, church. Okay? Who is whose boss? Who is whose boss? You are supposed to be accountable to me. You are supposed to be accountable to me. But to be making a church member feel as if the church, you own the church something. You don't own the church anything. You own everything to God. It is God you own something to, not the church. You might owe gratitude to the pastor. You might owe appreciation to them for serving you, for ministering to you, for helping you grow, for all that. Gratitude, appreciation, that's it. But that is even not an excuse, and that is not enough a reason why there should be an ownership established over you. That is not a reason enough why you should submit your will. That is not a reason strong enough why the church must control your daily activities or your life activity on a daily basis. You don't own anybody anything. The fact that you chose to come to that church is your free will. It is your free will that brought you to that church, and that free will is the most important thing you have in that church. And because you have that free will, that means that you could have chosen to go to any other church down the street. The fact that you came to that church, they should be thanking you and thanking God for it, because I could have used that same free will to go to another church. After all, maybe you are not the only one who has invited me to church in my own lifetime. Maybe other people have invited me too. So just because I came to your church, why should that make me to give up on my rights and on my free will and on my authority and on my freedom? Where is that coming from? You show me in the Bible where church members or believers have to give account of whatever they are doing outside of the church time. Why they have to give account on how, you know, if they come to church or where they go, where they didn't go, and why they didn't report to you, why they didn't warn you, why they didn't tell you they were not going to show up in church. What is your own problem with that? If you see that I didn't come to church, just ask, are you okay? Is everything all right? Everything is okay. I have my own reason. Why should I come here and reveal it to you? So this is just point number one, sign one of a cult. So if you go to a church where they have this membership owner, members owner and ownership mentality, where they relate to members as if they belong to them, where they relate to members as if they own you, where they treat you as if you belong to them. As if you don't belong to yourself. You don't belong to your own life. As if you now belong to them. You are now their property. That is a cult. And it doesn't matter how big it is. It doesn't matter how popular that church is. It doesn't matter how great, how good their music is. It doesn't matter how much they sing. It doesn't matter who goes there. It doesn't matter who, you know. You notice that they don't treat rich people like that. Oh. The people who are really rich and influential, you know, they treat them, they run after them and really honor them. It is the poor people that they are treating like that, ordinary people. So, the topic we are treating today is ownership. If the church that has become a cult sees their members as their property. So if they see you as their property, it means it's not a church, it's a cult. Now, what are the other signs that we need to look for to see if your church is a cult or not? If you need permission to go somewhere, if you need permission to go somewhere, let's say, for example, I've been looking here because I didn't know that success has arrived. Now comes success. Huh? It's this way, this side. This is Dr. Success here. Now, he came from another city. He traveled down here to be here today. So let's say he belongs to a church in Nigeria or wherever. And you know there are some churches like that you need to take permission before you go, you travel. Did you hear that before? Yes. So it's not fantasy. It's not just me. Okay, you say it loud. So
yeah. There are a lot of churches where you have to take permission from somebody before you can go anywhere.
From your leader, from your pastor,
from group leader, church pastor, some deacons or things like that.
So let's say you want to now come to Ukraine from anywhere or to Kyiv, and they said you didn't take permission, make you no return to that church again. You don't have the moral right to return to that church again. You don't have. That church is a cult. Because there is nobody, no pastor should ever be interested in asking you for permission, to ask them for permission before you could travel anywhere. And what is even worse is that, let's say your church is not Embassy of God Church. Your church is another denomination. And now you decided to go and see pastor of Embassy of God Church, Pastor Sunday. But that might be a bigger problem.
Big problem.
Big problem. Not be small. That is even a bigger problem. To go and say you want to go and see somebody who has not been sanctioned, accepted by your pastor. So even it doesn't matter if you think that your church is good. The only condition the only condition under which you might want to, tell your pastor or your leader that you are traveling is because, maybe you have very good relationship and they have proved to you their love, they have proved to you their care, they have proved to you their attention, they have proved to you that they are your father and your mother, and you love them and you respect them. So out of that respect and honor, then you can inform them that you are traveling. Otherwise, nobody should be demanding from you And especially if this is not just from you alone. Let's say you are very close to the leadership and that's why they were asking you. But sometimes, but if it is a practice, it's even worse. If this is being practiced in the old church, so that means that it does not just apply to you alone. And it does not just apply to, let's say, praise and worship leader, because there could be a time when praise and worship leader, you hold a position of authority, right? I mean, not authority of, responsibility. Yeah, you hold a position and you need to, because if you just travel and you don't appear on next Sunday or in the rehearsal, that is irresponsibility because you are holding a position, or you are the secretary in the church, or you are somebody, you have an obligation to carry out. That is different. That is just, it's moral. It is okay to inform people you are working with that you are traveling. Otherwise, but if it is a general practice for everybody, that if you are a church member, you must go for permission. I never even heard that before until Nigerians began to tell me that is possible. I couldn't even believe it that was possible. But you have confirmed it. Many people have confirmed it. I never even knew this could be possible. I said, so what will I do if I have a church of 20,000 people, 25,000? How many? Every day I will only be giving permission. Visa. Thank you, sir. And someone is writing now that sometimes even your visa, you'll be declined. Your permission, your request for permission will be declined. They will say you cannot go, you cannot travel. Why? I have heard of stories like somebody wanted to travel to England for business. And the person would have asked the pastor for permission, but because it was Thursday, it was on Sunday, it was in church on Sunday, and this was Thursday, and he just got a call from his head office that he has to travel from Nigeria to England. So he traveled Saturday. And then he was in England when somebody was calling and said, Pastor wants to talk to you. Okay, what's the problem? Why are you not in church on Sunday? This Sunday, service is finished. Why are you not in church? He said, I've traveled. What? You report here. You have to report to the office, pastor's office. Tomorrow, next day, Sunday, Monday, you have to report. He said, I'm here for a week seminar. No, you have to report to the church. Okay, if you cannot come here, as soon as you get back to Nigeria, the first thing you have to come and see me and give report why you have to travel without permission of your pastor. What is this? What kind of craziness this is? And this is a church, I'm not talking about a cult church. This is one of the most popular churches in Nigeria that is doing this. Because they want you to bring tithe and offering on that Sunday and appear there and bring it. So that one was saying, I've sent my tithe through my wife. He said, but still you must come for blessing or for prayer. Another case, there is another case of somebody I know. Okay. There is somebody who is just written here, Duna Keyboard. Duna Keyboard said that they have preached Nigerians into submission. They have preached their members into inactivity and paralysis. What do you call it? Paralysis. They have paralyzed the will of our people. They have paralyzed the willpower of my people. They have hijacked them. They have enslaved them. They have cleaned their brain. They have paralyzed their brain. Their mental capacity has been paralyzed. Because what Duna says is, in some cases, if you go without pastor's blessing, you are at risk that anything can happen to you. So people are now living in that fear that they dare not even try to travel without pastor's blessing. Because they now believe it, that something will happen to them if they go without. So they have been, instead of love being sown in people, fear has been sown into the heart of the people. People's heart and life has been hijacked by fear. Pastors, how could you make people to be asking for your permission? Are you their owner? Do you own them? Are they your property? And I want you to hear me and pass this message to as many nooks and crannies as possible. pass this word, spread this word. Let's set our people free. Jesus died for these people. They are not just Nigerians even, but Jesus died for them. They are God's people. Let's set the people of God free. Let's spread the word. And if you have not yet shared this message right now, go share it. I'm becoming emotional. Let's go and share the message. Go share the message. Spread the word. Share it publicly. People, you are not a property of any pastor. You are not a property of any church. You are not a property of any denomination. And don't count yourself as such. You belong to Jesus. That's all. So if you see that in your church that you call your church, people are being told to come for blessing or to come for pastor's blessing before they travel. Or for permission even. You are not just supposed to leave. You are supposed to start a campaign to deliver all other people who are still there. You are supposed to start a campaign on Facebook, anywhere, to begin to enlighten and begin to talk about these things and begin to let people know that they are in captivity, that they are in cell, in jail, in slavery. Only that the slave was not paying tithe. Those days they were used to slaves those days were not even paying tithe. They were just working. But at least they were working on the plantation of the slave master. So slave master had something to offer. He offered his land. He offered his plantation so that the slave could. But here you have to go and find your own plantation today. You have to go and find where you work. You have to go and develop yourself by yourself. At least the slave owner at that time, he developed and trained the slaves to work. He gave him skills and gave him land where to work. He gave him the territory. But today, nobody gives you any job. You yourself, is your own obligation to go and find your job by yourself. And to go and send yourself to school. And after you do all that finish, you have to still come and be bringing them the percentage. And tithe now is too much, it's too small for them. So you don't just bring tithe alone. You bring prophet offering. You bring the money they find, levy on the pastor's birthday, the levy on the New Year, the levy on Easter, the levy on mama's birthday, the wife of the pastor, the levy on anything, the anniversary or anything happening in the church. You have to pay for that. And then that is despite the fact that you yourself, you are the one taking care of your own family. At least during the days of the slave trade, it is the slave master that prepares the food and sustains the slave. But here, you have to sustain yourself by yourself. Even it is the slave master that used to provide house for the slaves to live those days. But here, you have to pay for your own house rent. So that's what I'm saying. That anybody that possesses or controls or attempts to control your will is turning you into a slave. When your will is under question or under the submission or under control or under the ownership of any individual, it means that that factor by itself makes you a slave. And it makes that organization either a cult or a slave plantation. And I said, okay, let's even compare the two slave sales. During the time when there was real slave trade, but that was even not as dangerous and as bad and as horrible as this one. This slave trade that where churches are practicing today, the religious slave trade is worse than the physical slave trade that people were practicing in those days. Because the religious slave trade is so subtle. And people do it under the name of God. So, because you have to fear God. And then you have to, as if to disobey the pastor or the church is to disobey God. In fact, you are almost equaling them to God. So because you want to please God now, and because you want to, you want to honor God, you submit yourself even to unbearable circumstances and things to the extent that you are even now submitting your most powerful possession that God himself has given you, your will. And you know that even God himself will not control the will of a man. Even God himself will not violate the will of a man. When it was, when Adam and Eve, those were the very first people. When they decided to revolt against God himself, it was their will. It was their free will. You think God went mad and said, no, I press the remote control. In the name of Jesus, I paralyze your will. I stop it. You have to listen to me by force. No. Even today, there are some people who are taking free will decision not to obey God and not to serve him. And God is not forcing them into it. In fact, there are some people who even go and begin to campaign against God Almighty himself. They say they are atheists or they are whatever, or the communists or something. They begin to fight against God and God just leave them. So who are you? If God himself is not even captivating or controlling the will of a man, who are you? God has not given anybody that authority to have power over the will of another man, even if they come to your church. Because they decide to come to your church doesn't mean that they belong to you. They belong to Christ. It is this same free will that you are captivating or that you are capitalizing on now. It is this free will that you are enslaving that brought them to you in the first place. This same free will is what brought them to you. If they had not had that free will, they wouldn't have even come to you. They wouldn't have even been coming to your church. So the fact that I or you, anybody goes to any church, is a honor for the pastor. The pastor is supposed to be saying thank you to you, sir. He's the one to be saying thank you, sir, to you. He's the one to be honoring you. Because you have used your free will to bypass all other churches. You have used your free will not to go to all other places where you are being invited. And you have used your free will to choose him. He should be proud of you. He should be grateful to you. And never try to limit that your free will. Because limiting that your free will, he should have thought to himself, what about if somebody else had limited that free will from you using it to come to his place? Go. So that's number 2 sign that you belong to a cult. If you have been treated, if the church is treating members like their own property. Number 2, if members or followers of that church or ministers or staff of that church would need permission. I'm not talking about the, duty, job description, that kind of thing, right? Or responsibility, when you hold a position of responsibility. That's not. But when leadership or members of that church, when you will need, especially members of the church, if you need permission to do something or to go somewhere, you don't belong to a church, you belong to a cult. It's a cult. Somebody is writing me, so since all the churches in Nigeria are like that, where should we go now? Where should you go? You already have a church in your home. If you have 2 or 3 in your home, where 2 or 3 are gathered together, that's already church. Even if you are living alone, call your friends. So call somebody you know in your city. Or call somebody on social media. Call somebody on internet and start your own church. In the sense that, just gather together. Just where 2 or 3 are gathered together, that's your own assembly right there. You are the church. You are the body of Christ. You are the temple of God. Don't be afraid that where will you now be going to. You don't be afraid. God will bring people of like spirit or like-minded to you. And church, why should you even be looking at a building as a church? Huh? Why should you even think you have to go to some building to find God? God is already in your heart. God is already in your house. God is already with you. Just keep on loving him. Get to know him and get to love him. All right? So that's number 2 sign that you are not going to a church, you are going to a cult. Number 3 sign that you belong to a cult, not a church, is if you are always being pressured to do things. Go and serve there. Go and do this there. Go and clean the church. Go and do this. Pressure, you cannot escape. Everybody is putting you under pressure, and you don't have your free will to say, I don't want to, I can't. Because even though they might not force you to do it, but they are going to make you look bad, they are going to make you, and they won't give you name, they will say you are rebellious. Why am I rebellious? Because they say you should go and do this and you don't want to do it. Is that not my choice? Is it not a proposal? If it is a proposal, they are just proposing to you, please, can you do this? That is free will. You now decide and say, oh, I can or I cannot. And you have to respect, they have to respect that free will. But if, because you say, I don't want to, I don't feel like, or I'm not led to, I don't want to do it. But you are being pressured, they are saying, you know, you are disobedient, or you are disloyal, or you are rebellious. If they are giving you all kind of pressure, any church, doesn't matter what the question is about. If they are putting unnecessary pressure on you to conform to their own demands, making you or wanting you to conform to whatever they're asking you to do, you know, putting pressure on you, pressure, unnecessary pressure from members, from other people, from leadership, is a sign of belonging to a cult. Pressure to give, pressure to do what you don't want to do, pressure to be like others, pressure to do exactly like the church wants you to do. You belong to a cult or cult. Now cult you belong to. I'm sorry for spoiling your mood today. And maybe it's not very pleasant. But you came in here by yourself. May I not force you to come here. You came in here by yourself. So may I go tell the truth. Anybody who don't like, I'll make you come out. You are free. It's a free world. If you want, you could stay to hear the truth. If you don't want it, you could just switch off. You just one button away. But I must say the truth. I must tell you the truth. I must tell you the truth. I must share with you the truth. If they are forcing you to do anything, if they say you should do something, and they maybe even if not doing something, but it's just pressure. You are always under one pressure or the other. Some people are under the pressure that some people even who come on this platform, they refuse to write their names or to comment or to even greet. Why? Because they are afraid of the pressure and control that will come from their members, from their pastors and their church. Because you are under pressure. If you are under that kind of pressure that you cannot even say who you are and comment because somebody else will say it and what they will think or what they will say, then you don't belong there. You don't belong there. You are in a cult. Run for your life. That is destructive. That is destructive to you. So you don't go to a place and you don't remain in a place where you are always under pressure to conform, to do things that you don't want to do. Where you are going to be stigmatized and labeled as a rebel or disobedient or stubborn just because you want to follow your heart. You want to do what you want to do. Next point. Next point that will make you know that you belong to a cult and not a church. Do they always make you feel like you are the odd one out? They intimidate you by making you feel as if you are inferior or you don't belong, or you are not doing, why are you not dressing like this, or why are you not giving your tithe? Okay, as if they treat you as if you are second class. They intimidate you, they shame you just to make you be like they want you to be. Daniel Atenga say, me I dey here, I'm in DSA house watching this video. So my pastor, if you want to come and see, make you see me, I dey. Daniel Atenga is lost fear. No fear. So if they are using intimidation to make you look inferior, that's not the church of God. The church of God says, even if you are the weak one, even if you are weak, even if you are the feeble one, even if you are the one that is, that is not presentable, that the duty of the church, that's according to Corinthians, the duty of the church is to love you so much and to cover your weakness for you, and to cover for you so well that you don't even feel any discomfort, you don't feel any intimidation whatsoever, you don't feel any pressure, that even if you cannot afford that tithe or that offering, they will say, no problem, it's okay, no problem, it's okay, come on, don't worry, it's okay. You understand, don't worry. Your time, you understand, don't worry, it's okay. But when they are shaming you, when they are dominating you, when they are putting you down, domination, manipulation, intimidation, those are signs of belonging to a cult. That means you belong to a cult, not a church, my dear. Next point. Even if you are simply on your own, afraid and living under the fear that, oh, I don't want my church member to know. Oh, I don't want my church to hear about it. Oh, I don't want my church to do that I'm like this. Oh, that I'm friendly with this. Or that I'm going to this. Or that I'm... Anything that you are doing in your own private life and you are afraid. Not like sin or, to this about God. Not afraid of God, but afraid of church members that, oh, your church might not understand. If I will go to that to visit that, my friend, hey, it belongs to another church. Or, oh, if I will go there and walk it up, oh, I don't want my church members. If you are under constant fear of your church members, of the opinion of your church, what your church members will think, what your church members or your church leadership will think, what your pastor, you are living in fear that you cannot do something without the church. That you don't want your church to disprove or disagree of you. You don't want your church to know that you are having your own opinion, that you are having your own mind. You are always in fear that, oh, what will my church people think? Or what will my pastor think? What will my church say? That fear itself is a sign that you belong in the wrong place. That fear by itself is a sign that you belong in the wrong place. That you are not going to a church. A church where the love of God is, there is no fear. That's what the Bible says. If the love of God is in that church, you shouldn't be living under that fear. Next point. If you go to a church where control and monitoring, if they are always and constantly controlling and monitoring you, your action, what you do, what you didn't do, where you went, where you didn't do, when you gave, where you didn't give, just control and monitoring your action, your private life, your family life, you belong to the cult, not the church. That is not a church. Next point, how you know you belong to a cult. If a church is always taking interest in your private life, if a church is always taking interest in your private life, how much salary do you earn? It's a cult. If a church is always taking interest in your private life, as your money for school fees come, have you given tithe from the money of your school fees? It's a cult. If a church is taking interest in your private life, do you have a boyfriend? Where is your boyfriend? It's a cult. It's not their problem. If a church is taking interest in your private life, like the size of your blouse, you call it, the size or the shape of your blouse, the length of your skirt, the shoe size, or the trouser, the type of trouser you should wear and the type of trouser you shouldn't wear, is a cult. It's not a church. This is no. I made a video one time, and I said, as a pastor, even as a husband, it is not my business to tell my wife what size, what length of skirt to wear, or if to wear trouser or not to wear. It's not my business as a husband. I can advise her, I can suggest to her, but it's not my business to tell her that you shouldn't wear that or you shouldn't. She's a human being, grown up. Even before she met me, she was wearing anything she wanted before I came to her life. So why should she become a slave? She become a slave because I came. Is that what we signed for? That you will marry me, then I'll be telling you what you can wear and what you cannot wear. What a shame. Even as a husband. But now, if you are not my husband, you are not anything. You are just my pastor. You can only advise. But to be saying, this is the length of your trouser that you can wear, or you are not even allowed to wear trousers at all. You can even change, you cannot wear, you can only wear a skirt. What's your problem? Maybe you want me to slap you? No, because you are a woman. So because I'm a woman now, I cannot now wear trousers again. Make you run, oh. That is a cult right there. It's not a church. That's a cult. It's not a church. So all those things the people are practicing in churches, right? It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. Even if they are going to say, okay, this trouser does. I say that to my friends and my members that, oh, this dress doesn't fit you. But not like I'm making a policy. I'm just advising you as somebody who cares for you and something. That's different. But to make a policy and say that you shouldn't wear this, the length of your shirt should be this long, and your shirt must be buttoned up to here. You crazy? Are you sick? Maybe come up for road. That's rubbish. That's a cult. So if your church is meddling in your private affairs, because the trouser you wear or you don't wear is your own private affair. I can only preach the word of God. I can only preach the standard of God. It's only the word of God that is the truth. All other things is just suggestion. I can only preach the word of God to you, argue my case, but you are a free person. I cannot be saying I have a dress code for you just because you decide to come to my church. What about if you take your bag and decide not to come to my church again? I'll be making the dress code for myself. Only for myself, by myself alone. So people, beware of churches where they meddle in people's private lives and affairs. If they are meddling in the people's private lives and affairs, it's not a church, it's a cult. Jefferson is saying women in Africa have suffered a lot from these backward-mindedness churches. Yes. And that's why God is raising us up. And that's why I said you people should go ahead and spread the word right now. Go ahead and share this link. Go ahead and spread the word, please. Next point, to let you know that you belong to a cult and not a church. If they are telling you that you cannot read any book that they did not permit, so they are telling you what book to read. They said you can only read book from this church, or that has been written by our pastor, or by the friend of our pastor, or the book that our pastors have sanctioned. You are the smartest, huh? So if a church or a pastor is telling you that you are not permitted to read any book that they have not sanctioned, hey, who gave them this authority? Make you explain to me. If anybody is telling you what book to read and what book not to read, I mean, if it's something different, if they're saying, oh, don't read a occultic book or something like that. But if they're saying, don't read another pastor, or don't read, you can only read the books that is written by me or my friends or my pastors. You cannot read anything you want that you think is good, even if it's from other pastors or other ministries. No, it has not been agreed or sanctioned by our own church here or by our own leadership, so you cannot read it. That is an abuse. That's an insult. So that you are trying to tell me I don't have mind by myself to decide what I can read and what I cannot read? That is a cult. That is not a church. Next point. If they are telling you that you cannot write your own book because you belong to their church, have they lost it altogether? Have they lost it altogether? I even heard that in some churches, even if you are a pastor in that church, you are an assistant pastor, second pastor, or a branch pastor, you cannot even write your own book. Talk less of member. I'm not even talking about members now. Even if you are a pastor or a worker, you cannot write your own book under your own name. Why? Because the only man that has the right to write book is only the man of God now. One man. So what about me? Is it not the same God you are listening to that I'm listening to? What happened? If you heard of that church, you don't even need to belong there. If you just had alone, make to pick race, yeah? How many years? Make to pick race. Just take off and start a campaign. You must start a campaign to liberate everybody in that kind of organization. Because that organization is a cult, and a destructive cult at that. A destructive cult. Destructive. Dangerous. You must run away. You must not just run away. You must begin a campaign to begin to set other people free that belong to that kind of cult. And they call themselves church. Next point. If a church is always asking you to come for blessing, pastor's blessing, before you do anything, you must come for. Before you marry, you must go to pastor's blessing. Before you decide to be pregnant, you must go to pastor's blessing. Before you travel, you must go to pastor's blessing. Before you go to job, you must go to pastor's. Before you apply safe, you must go to pastor's blessing. If you must write application to somewhere, you must go to pastor's blessing with the application. You cannot do anything without pastor's blessing. Na cult, that is a cult right there. You don't need anybody's blessing. God is in you. Greater is he that is in you than he that is in you, including a pastor. So you don't need anybody's permission to do anything. Believe God, trust God. If you want to go and take permission, or you want to go to get blessing, it should be just because you honor them. But if it's a demand or it's a practice of the whole church, you have to run away from it. It's a cult. That is not a church. If they are always telling you what you have to do, what you must do, and not as an advice, not as a suggestion, it's a cult. Somebody say, Duna said, so what if the church has 50,000 members? And we're going to empty it now. Through freedom. Freedom, even if they have 50 million members, the freedom, we have to speak the truth on you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. You have to speak the truth on the truth, set such people free, and such churches free from the dominance of those kind of churches of ignorance. Jennifer Ashebe said, so many pastors have caused women to lose husbands that would have become wonderful husbands because the pastors are interfering in these relationships. Okay. So, if anything, it should come only as an advice. If it's coming as a general practice and demand, then it is a cult. If they say before, like I said, traveling, somebody is writing here, but I travel just because I always go to receive permission because I respect the pastor. If you are the only one that is doing that, you're going to the church, to the pastor, to say you are traveling and ask for permission. First of all, I would say it is because you yourself, you are a slave. Either because you yourself, you are a slave in your mind, you don't need permission of anybody to travel. You can go to inform your pastor that you want to travel, but not permission. If you are going to ask for permission, even if it is permission, let it be, if you are the only one doing that as a sign of respect, is one thing. But if it's a general practice in that church, if it's a general practice, it's not just you, everybody else is going for permission like that, it is already a cult. That's what I want you to get. It is because it has become a culture. It is because it has become something that has been established. Either it's, even though it's not a written, it might not be a written thing, but it is an unwritten law. But if you say you don't say anything bad, you want to go and be taking permission, then go and be taking permission. What are you doing here? So it means what I'm saying is against what you want, or you don't want to listen to what I'm saying. Please, you are free to live here. Go and be following your pastor and be whoever you want to be there. I would say you are a slave. You are a slave to another man. And God has not called us to slavery or bondage, but He has called us to freedom. But you don't have to listen to me. You are free. You are a free agent. But you know, sometimes what happens is that the very same people, during the time of slavery also, the people who are fighting against slavery to set free and to set free the slaves themselves are the ones who are fighting. The slaves themselves were fighting against people who are coming to set them free. The slaves themselves were fighting, protecting the slave owners, because they don't even realize that they are slaves, because their mind has been brainwashed. Next point. If you go to a church and they always tell you what you must do, not as an advice, it's a cult. They're just categorical about telling you, do this, and you don't know what to do. You just come to them and they tell you what to do. This is what you do this, do this. No, they should advise you. It should be as a suggestion, not like everybody, they know what to do because God said, Holy Spirit told me now. No, even Holy Spirit, it doesn't just tell you, go and do this. It gives you either the word, it gives you the revelation, and gives you the freedom to choose. Either you are going to obey or you are not going to obey. But when pastors are telling you, or churches to tell you this what you do, this what to do, that's not the way God works. Even God Himself, He wants everybody to come to salvation, but He gives everybody free will to choose salvation or not to choose salvation. Next point. If they demand for your time and life without your own consideration, okay, for example, there is somebody who was doing a surgery. This was a surgeon. He was conducting surgery in the hospital. And then his pastor called him. And he said, I cannot talk now because I'm, the secretary was calling. He said, you have to come and see pastor now. I'm doing surgery. I'm in the theater. I'm doing surgery. I'm conducting surgery. They said, pastor is calling you. You say you are surgery. Pastor, the senior pastor is the one calling you, the bishop. And you say you are surgery. He said, you have to resume. Then the pastor himself took the telephone from the secretary and said, you have to resume here now. And the man said, the surgery is still at 2 hours more to go. And to resume here now, the patient will die. I will go to jail. But he said, you have to come now. So the guy came 2 hours later after the surgery. They sanctioned him, punished him. And they are saying, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. Sorry, sir, yes, sir. That is not a church. That is a cult, my dear. They are using you, your time, the demand for your time, the demand for your life, without considering if it's convenient for you or not. Without considering your interests. If you can do it, you cannot afford to do it. They just demand as if you belong to them. As if they own you. So this is all under that point. This is all under the point that ownership, church ownership. So all these things show that you belong to a cult and not a church. Before I go ahead, I would like to ask anyone that is here who is familiar with this topic. Is it true? Are these things true? Or what do you think, even though you are hearing me right now? Anybody want to say anything? Please come. Tell us what you think. Let's hear people who are here with me. Let's hear what they think. Because this is going to be hot.
Well, hello, my name is Kate. I'm not that much familiar with this. What I'm hearing, it makes my hair be like this. Well, but what I heard is just, yeah, I see techniques which people are applying to have slaves. Like, because you cannot have slaves now to buy them. You can have slaves by, you know, using such tools like fear or desire to prove God that your faithfulness and everything like this. So I can see pure manipulation. And it's just I can see difference in what Pastor has described, those points that he described. If someone experiences this in the church, he must know that this is pure manipulation and very carefully designed to own someone's will. If you, for example, if someone tells you about the clothes, you know, many women they experience this. Yeah, when they are told don't wear the skirt like this, don't wear the clothes like this. You can experience this in the church. You can experience this in your house as a wife. In both cases, you will if you analyze what the person is doing to you when he's trying to tell you that you shouldn't wear this or you should wear that. In all these cases, is the person is trying to put himself above you. So if you will submit to this. To will of this person, this person will feel like he owns you. It's fair for the family. So if the husband will feel he owns you if you start submitting to these not logical things, you know, just a desire of someone to own you. And if it's applied in church, it means that the leader who is applying this to the member is trying to show and to straighten his position, that my position is above you, you know, and this is pure manipulation. Well, church has to be totally different. The position of leader has to be like this: I raise you, you are, I give you a platform. I am a platform for you. This is how it should be the position of leader. I am a platform for you, not you are a platform for me. And if someone applies to you such techniques, saying to you what you have to wear, saying to you what you have to read or you shouldn't read, especially I was blown away by these permissions on what to read or what not to read. We have a freedom of mind. This is the freedom that even God Himself He gave in the Adam garden. God Himself He gave us permission to choose and to think ourselves, because He put a tree of good and evil in the garden. Why putting the tree in the garden where everything is fine? Why did He put this tree in the garden? For them to have even choice to do wrong, because God gave permission people to think. They didn't think well, they made mistake, but it was their choice. Even God Himself, He gave freedom. So if pastors, they justify their decision, justify their decision to give or not to give what to read, they are not even close to God. You know, if they say I'm deciding what you will read and I'm sanctioning books, and I will tell what you read or what you don't read because I am your spiritual father or because I'm your spiritual leader and I'm responsible for you in the spiritual world, this is a deception, because God Himself, He is more responsible for you in the spiritual world, but He gave Adam and Eve choice in the a garden of Eden, and he have put this tree to give a choice. So how pastor who claims that he is responsible for spiritual wealth or health of his members can say that I want to protect you, and that's why I'm not allowing you to think anymore whatever you want. You will just think what I will put in your mind. This is lack of this takes from you the only freedom you can have, whatever happens to you. Like you can lose freedom by getting into jail, but you don't lose freedom of your mind. But if this is the worst condition someone can get into is to lose freedom of your will. And God himself, he doesn't allow himself to take your will. So what I've also seen here from examples that Pastor was given and the points that Pastor were given, many of those points that were applied by Jones in Jonestown. Jones who? Jim Jones. Many. If you will read this story, if you will watch documentary movies, you will find all those points there. That the will of members was submitted to this Jim Jones. No one could have his own point of view. And because they couldn't express their point of view, they could see also other people are not expressing their point of view. So the environment in this place of Jim Jones, it was like keeping quiet, keeping your mouth shut. It's normal condition. So if I'm like going outside of this rule, I am outsider, and people were losing their freedom because of everyone was keeping silence. So now, if you are in the church where everyone keeps silence, and you will submit to this, you will have almost the same future as members of the Jim Jones church had. Maybe it's not not physical, but definitely you will lose your opportunity to open all gifts that you have in you, to have the future that God prepared for you. You will, like a person, you will die like a person.
Yeah, inside.
So inside, and the world will not remember about you, because in order to become someone, you need to think, to be allowed to think. So this is my point of view about this. So I think you need to really find a way to share with other people if you believe that, like, you have right to think. Give other people also opportunity to think.
Brilliant.
Hello everyone. I've been a victim of this. I lived in London for
almost all the African churches there like that.
Yes, all my life. And you know one thing, while I was feeling really hot in my head, Kate's one head was pulling up. I was also thanking God at the same time that I'm now free, and I've come to the realization that I'm starting to use my head. First thing is that, God, one thing I just want us to remember, because one thing I know is that I was also questioning this very early. So I know that God exists and God gives me sound mind. But for some reason, environment for me just changed everything, that I suspend my head. I suspend my brain, my thinking capacity, my faculty. Everything was just suspended, because these are the things that they tell you that this is the right thing to do. And when you look around you, you see that everybody else is doing it. The person that asked a question about 50,000 numbers doesn't mean that the church is doing the right thing. So you have to know that, in fact, the less people, the better. I think it says something in the Bible about the narrow road. So the wide road, where a lot of people are, is probably the wrong way. But the narrow one, which is difficult, is probably the right way. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but don't go with numbers. Numbers is not important. And also the systematic ways that these pastors do this. Anything that controls you is evil, is wrong, is not right. So, and it's all control. I've been a member of a church for 15 years. I've been somebody that listens to the pastor, that manipulates in different ways, that stand up and say, if I'm your father, you will listen to me, you will do this. So if you're my father and you raised me and you raised me well, then you also have to trust my judgment. You know, if you raised a child and you know that you did the right thing by that child, you've put in a lot of input to the child, you don't follow the child everywhere to see what the child is doing. You will know that when the child goes out or when the child makes a decision, the child can make sound decision. So when they think that you cannot make sound decision, then of course that's negative. But you know, the one thing I'm just grateful for right now is that I know there was something that was telling me inside of me that a lot of these things was wrong. But I was looking around me and I saw that a lot of people are doing these things. They're following the instruction, so there must be something right. And the other thing that I wanted to say is, you know, Kate already said it, in fact, about God giving us free will. If God himself can give us free will, then who are the people that are leading, that are saying that you have to do certain things? And, you know, as a woman, I have really suffered. I feel like, you know, I'm putting all these old things behind me, but I have suffered in terms of this is what you wear, this is what you shouldn't wear. Even other people that are not even pastors, that are just normal congregations like yourself, they carry on that mentality that they start telling you that this is how you should be, this is how you shouldn't be. Again, that's control. Everybody wants to control you. So you have to make sure that you pick race in the usual term. The other thing I wanted to say is also that there's a lot of systematic way of controlling and abusing the office of the pastor or leadership or the church. You know, I remember, I must have told this story before. I remember a pastor that used to tell us stories about the congregation should always listen. You see, he came in church that Sunday and said, you know, many times he told this story, but I remember one particular Sunday where he said, you know, I told you guys, you must always tell us, God put us over you for a reason. And that reason, you know, you must adhere to it. This is what is happening. A friend of mine, this is what happened. His church member, a daughter of his, one of the people mentioning that, you know, I consider them as my father, was going out with the friends, and she told the friend, I need to call my pastor, I need to tell my dad, my pastor, and the friends were laughing at her, saying that why do you need to tell your pastor before you go? And anyway, the girl called the pastor, and then the pastor said to her, oh, don't go on this trip with your friends, don't go in the car with them, you know, just don't go on this trip. And then she said, oh, okay, she didn't go. So the rest of the friends went ahead, and they went on the trip, and they had an accident. What's that? Pure fear. I don't even think that story exists. I think it's just lies to manipulate people. Now that I'm thinking about it, that story is told systematically because it was told in another church. So the thing is, everybody wants to control you. So you have to get hold of your mind. You have to get hold of, you know the God that you're serving. Know that God doesn't control you. If God gives us free will, then, you know, you're free to make your own decision to do what's right for you. And even if you look in a home, in a house, if you have parents that are always forcing you to do something, are always making you to do something, guess what? When you grow older, you resent them, you hate them. So one thing I want to tell the people that thinks that these people are their fathers or their mothers, or they've got permission over them because they're pastors or because they're leadership in the church, is that you're going to end up hating them. That is the law. That is the law of life. If you allow anybody to control you and you continue to just go with what they're saying, eventually you're going to hate those people, because that's how it works. You know, life balances out. You would hate them seriously, and you will be the one to regret your life for wasting your life, for not using your mind. Because the thing about mind is that if you suspend it on one area, the brain covers many other areas. So it's not just one function that brain deals with. So if you let one area or one situation be permanently suspended in your head, that brain cell area, it will suspend every other things as well. So you can't make decisions yourself, you can't do certain things yourself. That is not God. That is just witchcraft. And again, I will say what I said yesterday. How can you serve a God who gives more power to another person to control you? How can you truly love that God, knowing that he created you too, and he gave you lesser power? You couldn't understand, you can't make decisions, you can't do so. Then you can't. It's not possible. It's like if you have a parents at home and you have siblings, and with those siblings, your parents love one more than you, and you can clearly see, do you love that parent? Do you love that mom or that dad? You always say, oh, mom, you, even when they don't, that they maybe favor one more than the other. You always say, mom, how come you're doing this with this person? How come you're doing that? That's exactly what we're doing with God, and we're fooling ourselves, because if you know that the God that you serve created us equally and gives everything to everyone, you will not allow people to continue to control you in this way, to manipulate you. And where there's fear, God is not there. God is not where fear is. There's no truth in there. So all these examples that Dr. Sunday has given, it's happening in your church. You know that you've seen it some way or one way or the other. Maybe not specifically, but you've seen something in the same category. Please pick race. Thank you very much.
Set others free.
Yes, and set others free. Inform other people, please.
Share now.
Yes, this is time to share.
And the movement against deception.
Oh yes, guys, this is also a good time for me to announce. We've got a form out already. It's a form just for you to register, because we want your contact details, not because we want to make you a member.
What is going on?
Yes. Yes, okay. Hi guys, we have a movement. Since Dr. Sunday started these teachings, the first series was about prostitution of tithes and offering. Tithes and offering. And that started on the 5th of June. So check it out if you haven't seen that. It's on YouTube. Since we started, there was a movement, because there's a lot of things that was revealed to us that came to our understanding, and we now know better. So from that information, a new movement was developed. We started a new movement, which is a movement against deception. Movement against deception in the church. It's on Facebook. There's a page right at Movement Against Deception in the Church, or just search the Movement Against Deception in the Church, and you can like that page. But secondly, in order to be part of this movement, we want to be able to send you information, send you strategies on how we can help other people to free them and tell them the truth about how the kingdom of God is free, and you can be happy and fulfilling in the free kingdom of God without living in fear. We will need your contact details. So we've compiled a form, and the form is on Dr. Sunday's page, and is on the page that I've just announced to you, Movement Against Deception in the Church, and on other DSA pages. If you don't know, I'll put the pages on the comment section so that you know the various pages. There are two functions within the movement. The first function is ambassadors. Ambassadors are those people that just propagate this information. They help other people to understand what the movement is about. They call people together. We strategize. They strategize in their community, in their various community, maybe at work, maybe at home, wherever they want to function. And then the second function is committee members. Committee members help to make decisions. They're the one that set the strategy that sends the ambassador. Committee member would have a dual role. There will also be ambassadors as well. So I'll urge people to just go on the page, have a look at the page, and also the forms. It takes 2 minutes. It's just basic information, your name and your contact details, and what you want to do within the movement. That's basically what the form is about. So complete the form and let's free other people.
Instead of them going, many people don't go. They don't like going. So let them put their information right there. We'll inbox them.
Okay. Another option is, Dr. Sunday has just suggested is, if you're, just to make things easier for you, if you just put your name, if you're in to be an ambassador, put I am in. And if you're in to be a committee member, just write committee on the comment page, comment box, and then we would contact you. So do that right now. Do that right now. If you're interested in joining the movement against deception in the church, please do that right now. If you want to be an ambassador, put in I am in. If you want to be a committee member, write committee in comment box. But please still complete the form. I will put the form again as well on this page so that you can see it, because we still need your email so that we'll be able to send you more information. Thank you very much. Bye.
Hello everybody. My name is Success, and it's such a privilege to be here once again to share my thoughts on tonight's teaching. Very, very interesting because tonight, first of all, I want to really congratulate us because it's another night of liberation for every one of us. You know, we've been liberated once more against age-long deceptions and many things that have held us bound. You know, these are the reasons why we've not been able to fly for many of us. So my congratulations to us because now we are free to fly. You know, what DSA was teaching, so many things were going through my mind when DSA was teaching us tonight. The first thing that occurred to me was the fact that the will that we have within us is actually the nature of God within us. Because like the Bible says that God works in us to will and to do. So will is a gift of God to us, the nature of God to us. And unfortunately, one of the things that the devil strives for, one of the things that the systems, many systems of the world strive for or against in our lives is that will, you know, that power to be able to do your own thing, to be able to live the life you're given, to be able to do what you're called to do, you know. So when a teaching like this is coming, we should not hold it lightly. I think that we should, this one message you want to go back again and again to listen to. This one message you want to give as gift to your friends, to let them understand that freedom has come. You know, many of these things that were being read out to us, that were being discussed with us, they have become so normal to many people that now, even when you are hearing that, oh, when you need to travel, you don't need to take permission, to many of us that sounds strange because we are so immersed in the wrong things, you know. But that's the truth, because God has given you a will, and no man should tamper with that will of God within you. So if you have a will, if you have the expression of the will, then you should go ahead and express your will in the way God ultimately wants to be the Lord over. You know, the only gift that we can give to God as human beings is the gift of our will. We can always surrender our will to Him, not to any other man. When we are surrendering our will to another man, then we are placing that man in the place of God in our lives. So the ultimate honor that we can give to God as human beings is, you have given me this opportunity to do whatever thing I want to do. Now I'm bringing it back to you. I'm submitting it under your lordship, under your, you know, and not under the lordship of any man. Whoever has the control of your will ultimately has taken the place of God in your life. So, for example, if I need to take a permission from God because He's the owner of everything and I'm surrendering my will. Now, when you're taking permission from a man, you are ultimately placing that man in the place of God in your life. Then also you have to remember the fact that, like DSA taught us, like in the olden days when slaves are acquired, usually the first thing that a slave master will do when he acquires a new slave is that they will stamp that slave with a very hot iron, usually on their thighs or on their arms. They are tagging them. That pain that they are driving into that slave is for two things. First is to let them know that, look, you have nothing of your own. You have no choice in the matter any longer. It is whatever thing that I do to you from today. They tag them, and then of course for ownership, so that everyone can identify who belongs to them and not. That same thing that churches today do to every one of us. They tag us, not with hot irons any longer, but with hot doctrines. So this is why there are a lot of doctrines. It's always about don't do this, don't do that. You are doing it, you know, doctrines and doctrines. It's all in the name to tag you. So eventually, by the time you are tagged, you have this denominationalism within you that you don't want to relate with people that have other tags. So you are tagged with certain sects or cults, and then you don't want to relate with those who have other tags of other sects. You know, so it's same thing. It's all control. It's all manipulation. Deliverance has come for us tonight. I refuse to be tagged. I was once tagged, I must say, but I have removed my tag.
Is it true? Have you experienced this thing?
Yes, these things are very, very true. These things are extremely, extremely true. Especially if you've been to Africa or you go to any church that has things to do with Africa.
You've heard or you've experienced yourself.
Yes. Many of these things that happen, usually they'll give instances such as this. Like Maya also shared, you know, so many scary stories. Like somebody disobeyed me. The pastor will tell you something like that somebody disobeyed me and this was the consequence. I went to Kaduna last week And this was what the proclamation I made over the people, and this happened. So usually you hear about things that happened when he traveled to Kaduna, when he traveled to Port Harcourt, but now he's in Lagos and nothing is happening. But unfortunately, this is when he leaves Lagos that everything begins to happen. So next week he goes to maybe Ibadan, for example, and then he begins to share stories of what happened in Lagos. Manipulation, toiling with your mind, such that you are not able to think properly. You are not able to reason. So these are instances, these are examples. Other examples that readily comes to my mind right now, of course, we have to do with money. It's always about somebody sowed a seed into me or to the ministry, and this was what happened. Found miracle money. Somebody donated it to his account miraculously. These all kinds of stories like that. These things are not true. They are only how do you say it now? Tools by which slave masters manipulate us. Courts, they are real. They're very, very real. Courts is from the word culture. Culture. And where you see people emphasize again and again on culture, this is the way we do it. This is the way it has been done. This is our tradition in this place. Nobody talks to the man of God. This is what happens. That is a symbol of a cult right there. And you should run for your life. Nothing good really comes out of cult anyway. Usually it's death. Usually it's manipulation. Usually you are not able to live the life that God has called you to live. So refuse to be a part of any cult. God has called us to a life of service, to honor each other. God has called us to understand that every one of us has the nature of God within us, and we must submit to that nature of God that is in every one of us. This is what we are learning, and this is what the head, we say, controls everything in the human body. But the head does not shout about its function. It doesn't force it. It doesn't force the hand. It doesn't force the leg. It doesn't force the mouth. It serves, basically, just provides the signals, provides the functions, basic things, and that is how the body functions. So we are built like that as the body of Christ. Nobody has the right to tamper with the nature of God within us. The will that God has given to us is a free gift, and we are to honor only God with our will. Thank you so much.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Wonderful. Freedom don't come. Oh. Free at last. Shioma says, oh my God, miracle money. I witnessed that in a particular service, she says. Now I know that was fraud, manipulation at its height. A lot of these gatherings are just cults. Yep. Jemima Shooks, thank you so much. Okay. She's saying, Pastor Sunday, please back your teachings with Bible references. If what you have heard so far is not enough for you as Bible references, go and read your own Bible by yourself. I've been backing it up from with Bible references from the beginning. If that's not enough for you, go read your own Bible yourself, my dear. Yetunde says, okay, she's talking to people. Okay, Anastasia is saying, it is so sad that after all Jesus has done to deliver us from slavery, the fellow African men who have experienced physical, mental, and spiritual slavery, sent to one even greater and deeper, sending other people to even greater and deeper slavery. Olayinka Sheung says, for people that are arguing against this teaching, how come this is happening in Nigeria, African churches only? These things don't happen in many of the European churches, yes. I mean, white-based churches, most of them. Chisandra says, in all you do in life, make sure you fulfill purpose. God is not interested in which church you worship, but if you actually fulfill your purpose and destiny. God bless you, DSA, for your labor of love. Jane says, I agree with you, King Success. I refuse to be tagged by any pastor. Rinde Gbero, thank God for DSA. He is the best mentor I've ever come across. Elizabeth Ali, if you cannot run away from that church, please kindly stay and be faithful to man, and he will reward you on Judgment Day. Chris Obi says, we should be careful to know what we give out, because the Bible says that pastors are shepherds and the duty of the shepherd is to guide the sheep. There is no need for balance. I love you, DS. Ugo Ogbona, it's important to serve God with wisdom, praying for discernment, and don't be brainwashed. Yep. Adebayo Odutola, this is a great teaching. Sandra, God bless you, Dr. Success. Ufoma says, you are right, Dr. Success. Julie, a great success. OC says, Jesus is the only good shepherd. Elizabeth says, if you are just listening to DSA for the first time, please go back to his YouTube channel and listen to his series on church, prayers, etc. You will know where to go. That is Sunday Adelaja Official. This is after Mayowa spoke. They're asking what email to contact. No, we are going to contact you. If you, all the people we have written, we are going to take time and inbox you. We are going to inbox you those forms individually and the letter, so you'll be able to fill out the things. Ugo Ogbona said, delicate issues like this are for the courageous, and that only comes from God. You are not serving your congregation very well if you are running away from life issues like this. People need answers anyway. Julie Ngoya, and best listen more than twice, since many tend to misquote Dr. Adelaja easily because of the sharp truth he speaks. Don't be overwhelmed, but listen closely over and over. And Mbakwe says, dear Pastor, I suggest you summarize the presentation at the end of each broadcast for those joining midway. God bless you. Well, Anne, That is why this is a recorded program, by the way. So that people like you are coming midway or who didn't come at all could just press it to start from beginning and watch it not even once, not twice, not just summary, but the whole thing for as many times as you want. Just press the share button, it will be on your page. You can be watching it on your own page even. Julie Ngoya said, also, this is a series. So for all those who fear an imbalance in the teaching, please follow alongside every day. It will, you know, for it to be cleared. Williams Olatunde, DSA, there are churches with all those features that you mentioned that are in existence, and people are in bondage without knowing it. Oh yeah, that's exactly why I'm teaching this. Julius Adegoke is saying this is a delicate topic message. It has to be well balanced in order to get the best out of it. Otherwise, it becomes counterproductive. DSA, I love you, but at the same time, you don't want to raise rebellious people, but people that are willing and ready to make positive impact in their spheres. You have done a lot, but this is delicate. Julius, listen, do you know me at all? What do you know about me? You said I want to raise, is it counterproductive and rebellious people? If I want to raise rebellious people, so who have I been raising for 30 years? I've been pastoring for close to 30 years. And I've been raising people. Are they rebellious people? The people you'll be hearing their stories. This is the teaching that has helped me to raise the kind of church I raise. But you are not raising rebellious people. You other people that are not raising people the way I'm raising and who are not talking the way I'm talking. They are not raising rebellious people, yes, but they have succeeded in raising slaves. I have not raised rebellious people. I've only raised free people. Free people, because that is exactly what God calls us to. He called us to freedom. To freedom, Christ called us in Galatians. So this is freedom. If you are not used to this kind of freedom, you have to examine your own freedom, even if you have it or not. Why should you be afraid of freedom? Don't ever be afraid of freedom. Be afraid of slavery, not freedom. Sandra says their scheme is giving you position to control you. So people be careful when you are suddenly elevated in the church to one position or the other. Roland Amaro said, do they ever believe you are mature enough to decide for yourself? They want to accept that they don't want to accept that you are knowledgeable enough to control your life. You have been my pastor for 10 years and you are still telling me to report to you and come and take permission. So you've not taught me well. Elizabeth said, if you listen to all those pastors consistently, you will realize that they all have the same stories. This one happened to that, that one happened to that. Theophilus Muiwa, thank God for DSA. If not for DSA, Maiwa, seriously, people like you and us, we wouldn't have been able to escape the slavery. Professor Daniel said the fear of death and of going to hell is what makes Nigerian Christians to submit to all kinds of leaders. Yeah, that's so true. Jefferson says, everybody wants to control you, so you need to build your own prison. Sandra says, one of my aunts told me that she was always afraid to tell her pastor that she can't come to a service or she can't make it to a church meeting or another event, especially at odd hours of the night, because she's a married woman and very late, but she cannot even tell her pastor, so she has to do it. She sacrifices her safety and the happiness of her family just because she, you know, had been given the position of a deaconess, so she has to be in every service and every program. The position of bondage, she says. Okay, Duna said, the point of correction, please. I said, if you are having 50,000 congregation, how many of them will come and take permission from you? Oh, yes, but in some places, yeah, they take permission from the zonal leader and regional leader and cell leader and things like that. Rosalind says, the problem with group thinking, like in churches, is that people actually stop thinking and simply follow suit. Flo's Ozzy says, can someone explain these two terms I have heard used many, many times in churches? One, there are actually three he wrote. One, when they say their grace covers you, that's why you need the permission to come. Their grace, where did they get that grace from? I thought it is God who gave the grace. And if it is God who gave the grace, where is God? Is God in heaven or in your heart? If God is in your heart and is the one who gave the grace, so who told you that you don't have that same grace? Number two, when they say they are responsible for our souls. Wow. Responsible for your soul? I don't think so. I think they only care. They're supposed to care for your soul. They're supposed to take care of it, but responsible for it. They are responsible to teach you. They are responsible to teach you the Word of God. They are responsible to, to teach you the truth, but not control your soul. Your soul, your will is in your soul. So God doesn't control the will, which means they cannot control your will as well. Then the other one said the blessing of the church covers you. Yes, but before the blessing of the church, the blessing of God is greater than the blessing of the church. Okay. Well, nobody wants to add anything? If there is nothing to be added, then tomorrow I will be continuing this series. So I look forward to seeing you people tomorrow, and let the revolution begin. Movement against deception in the church. If you want to participate in it, just write I am in, or write committee if you want to be in the leadership. Let the revolution begin. We are going to clean the church of all kinds of deception. God bless you guys.